welcome to BCYF City Hall Childcare. My name is Yamali Malord, the proud director of this early childhood program. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce you to Mayor Michelle Wu. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I had been hoping that Ms. Yamali would say a little bit more about herself, so I'm going to spend some time there first. This is an incredible program that she has run now for 30 years. And some of the staff and team members here have been here from the very beginning and the founding of this program. Okay, hold on. I have all these prepared remarks, but before I go into them, I just want to really ground us in where we are. This is the outdoor play space of the City Hall Child Care Program. It, as you can see, reflects Boston in so many ways, and the design of the play structure, which has a little gesture to the Zachem Bridge. There's our little Sitco sign, the MBTA map over there. And we wanted to create this space a number of years ago because this is what's important about the building here, is we are focused on our young people, the future of our city, and a future that reflects all of Boston right within these classrooms. The work that happens here, the learning, the care, the love is absolutely amazing. And I know it personally because both of my boys came through this program. From my older son, who couldn't wait to jump from every surface out here in very scary ways, to my younger one, who is very shy, and the only person in the world that he would go to besides me was Annie, who has been the baby whisperer in the baby room, the infant room, for decades at this point. And we are only here because of the vision and commitment of a mayor who I've been proud to follow the footsteps of. Ambassador Flynn, former Mayor Flynn, created this program, I'm told, in 1989. It was at a time when Boston was facing a different set of issues, but also very urgent issues, wanting to bring stabilize communities in the city, ensure that the workforce of Boston could be a source of families finding opportunity and space in the city as well. And he pushed to put in place policies to truly help the people of Boston. There are many of those policies, but one of them that we are building on today was about childcare and how important it is for working families with young kids to be able to have that support, a place where they can trust the most important part of their lives to during the day while they're doing their jobs and contributing to our city's economy and community. The policy that he put in place would require that any new commercial buildings being built, office buildings being built downtown and in the surrounding downtown area neighborhoods, would include childcare on site or require resources to create childcare in the area, and to make sure that the city would put its money where its mouth was as well. He made sure that the city of Boston, as a major employer and workplace, had childcare right on site for the workers who serve our city and who are working hard every day to make our city run. That decision and that investment that Mayor Flynn made has changed the lives of hundreds of families who've been able to do these jobs serving our city because of the supports and this program here. And it's changed the lives of hundreds of young people who have gone on to even come back and serve our city and now are working in these very roles. Okay, let me launch into my formal remarks, and then I'll return to more about Ambassador Flynn and all of my colleagues here. I will just ground us also that this is a continuation of our efforts that we've been very proud to launch under the leadership of Kristin McSwain, who is our Director of Early Childhood for the City of Boston, a new office that was created to focus on this work. A few weeks ago, Kristin and I and many of the leaders gathered here today were in Chinatown at the Acorn Child Care Center run by the Boston Chinatown Neighborhood Center. Then, alongside a coalition of universal pre-K and early education providers and city leaders, we announced a $20 million investment to expand early childhood education through the Boston Public Schools and our Boston Universal Pre-K program. And today, we are at a different child care center, one that is run by BCYF, the Boston Center for Youth and Families, and directly serves the families working for the city of Boston. As mentioned, Mayor Flynn created this space in 1989 so City Hall could lead the way in family-friendly workplaces and supports. And in that same year, he signed a zoning amendment requiring large commercial developments in the Midtown Cultural District to either create child care programs on site or support the creation of child care programs elsewhere. And while this policy has been making a difference for more than 30 years, there are still so many working families in Boston who don't have access to reliable, high-quality child care. Many work non-traditional hours that some of our centers can't accommodate or don't have options in their neighborhoods or communities. And then they rely on an informal network of family and friends when people would prefer a formal care arrangement for that predictability and structure. And the process for following through on this zoning amendment and determining just how much funding and resources should go to child care programs has not been as transparent as it could be. So today I'm incredibly proud to be here with representatives from city leadership, from the community, and from the Care That Works Coalition to refresh this policy and add to it by signing an executive order that will update and clarify the guidance to ensure that our zoning requirements are transparent and predictable. This will better enable large developers to invest in our communities and create childcare options for every family in Boston. This order modernizes our zoning language by reflecting the needs of a changing childcare sector, one where families are looking for licensed, high-quality care across all of our neighborhoods. And it will help create a more transparent, clear process in collaboration with the BPDA and our Office of Early Childhood. We're creating consistency here for all parties and securing more predictable funding for child care programs across our city at a time where our economic recovery depends on families being able to access that care. These investments will be managed by the director of our Office of Early Childhood, Kristin McSwain, and the office will distribute grant funding to expand and improve existing providers and create new ones. It will also help us invest in climate resilience, energy efficiency, and environmental justice improvements right at our child care centers, where that improvement in health and well-being will go a long way for our littlest learners. Already, our Environment Department has been distributing clean air grants to family child care programs in East Boston to install new filters and improve indoor air quality, which we know is critical to health, safety, and overall learning. These investments will fund a wide range of programs across the city so every family in every neighborhood has access to safe, reliable, high-quality care. So together with our Office of Early Childhood and the BPDA, under the leadership of Chief of Planning Arthur Jemison and represented here today by Deputy Devin Quirk, we are ensuring that more programs meet the needs of Boston's working parents and families. As it stands right now, this order will apply to 14 existing zoning districts centered around the downtown area. But we know that when it comes to Boston's families and youngest leaders, we have to think as expansively as possible in the long term. And that's why we're planning to look at the underlying zoning code to make sure these provisions match our dynamic development sector while meeting the needs of all of our neighborhoods across the city. And so we look forward to continuing to work with the development community, residents, advocates, and community members to ensure that the benefits of growth in Boston are shared equally, equitably across our city so we can all thrive. Okay, one more time en español. Buenos días, gracias por estar aquí hoy con nosotros. Hace unas semanas estuvimos en Chinatown, en el Acorn Child Care Center, donde junto con una coalición de proveedores de cuidado infantil y educación temprana, anunciamos una inversión de $20 millones para ampliar la educación infantil a través de las escuelas públicas de Boston. Hoy estamos en la galería de City Hall Childcare, donde mis niños Blaze y Cass pasaron algunos de sus primeros días antes de tener la edad suficiente para venir a la galería. Aquí es donde conocieron a algunos de sus primeros amigos y es un espacio del que yo dependía junto con otros padres que trabajan aquí. Ese espacio se creó en 1989 para que el gobierno municipal sea un líder en la creación de lugares de trabajo favorables a la familia. Ese mismo año, el alcalde Ray Flynn firmó una ordenanza por la que se obliga a los grandes desarrollos comerciales a crear programas de cuidado infantil o apoyar la creación de programas de cuidado infantil en otros lugares. Y aunque esta política lleva más de 30 años en vigor, hay demasiadas familias trabajadoras en Boston que no tienen acceso a un cuidado infantil estable y de calidad. Por eso me enorgullece estar hoy con representantes de la coalición Care That Works y colegas de toda nuestra ciudad para firmar una orden ejecutiva que actualice y aclare las políticas para garantizar que nuestros requisitos de zonificación sean transparentes y predecibles. A crear un proceso más claro y transparente y colaboración con el BPDA en nuestra oficina de la primera infancia, estamos creando consistencia para todos y asegurando una financiación más predecible para los programas de cuidado infantil en toda nuestra ciudad. Juntos con nuestra oficina y estos líderes de la comunidad, estamos asegurando que más programas cumplan con las necesidades de los padres y familias trabajadores de Boston. Esa orden se aplicará a 14 distritos de zonificación existentes en el área del centro de la ciudad. Pero sabemos que cuando se trata de las familias de Boston y de nuestros líderes más jóvenes, debemos pensar con la mayor ambición posible en el largo plazo. Vamos a trabajar con los desarrolladores y los residentes para garantizar que los beneficios de nuestro crecimiento como ciudad se compartan de forma equitativa para que podamos prosperar como comunidad. Gracias. And now I will pass it over to the leader whose vision and foresight and commitment to Boston's families brought us to this point and has served so many families. I'd like to introduce Ambassador and former Mayor Ray Flynn, who will be followed by City Council President Ed Flynn and then City Councilor Liz Breadon in remarks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's awful nice to be here with all of you and once again see a program that was started the early days of a new administration. We put the priorities in order. It wasn't about major office towers or special, thank you. It wasn't about glamorous, high rent, $150, $170 million office towers. It was about where this great city, with its wonderful history, we could work on that history, not lose on that history, but nevertheless include so many people and their children who might have come here because of escaping very difficult times. And they brought with them the best we could offer. They brought their children with them. And as the mayor said, if you look around the city today, you see some of those people that came from immigrant roots, didn't have a lot of money, but they worked hard, and they played by the rules, and they contributed, and they shared. Not only did they get benefits, but they gave benefits to other people that needed this help. So here we are. The greatness of Boston is how well we took care of our young children. I remember early in my administration, walking out the back door there, I met a fellow that I knew. He's a laborer. And he said he worked for the city. He said, but he had to leave because he had to go home to take care of his kids. His mother now, who was sick, she couldn't stay with the kids. And he said, I have to go to an alcoholic program. Well, as soon as I heard that and took in all that knowledge, we started also, Madam Mayor, the first AA program, I think, of any city in America. And if they wanted to go for, people wanted to go for lunch, they could go across the street and get a lunch. But if people wanted to do something different, like go to an Alcoholic Anonymous program, they could do that. Would have special guests, would accommodate them, would make them feel very important and a very important fixture in the city of Boston. My friends, this is about you. This is about the people of the city. This is like building a great institution in the city of Boston. And I am so glad that it's relived, not just how beautiful, and take me to a building that is still illuminating in the sun and in the glare of lights, but this is it here. To be honest with you, I was watching the little boy over there. He was playing with the billboard, because that's what I'd be doing now if I were not here, but out there. And the little girl playing with the ball there. That's what this is about. You made it happen. If you got family, friends, neighbors back in Charlestown, Roxbury, East Boston, and they've been with us for a number of years, please say the old-time mayor said the great programs of Boston were brought about because of your support, your awareness, your commitment. This building, this program belongs to the people who made it happen, and I just was very lucky to be there at the time. God bless you all.
No, just wait. You can wait for me. Thank you, Mayor Wu and Mayor Flynn. I want to especially say thank you to Mayor Wu for the tremendous vision and role that her administration places on making sure child care is affordable, it's safe, and it works for working families, but also for our immigrant families as well. I also want to acknowledge my councilor colleague that's here, Councilor Breadon from the Alston-Brighton area. Thank my other councilors for their work in working with the Wu administration to make sure child care is a priority. So on behalf of my colleagues, we want to say a special thank you to Mayor Wu, her administration, and to the wonderful workers that educate and teach our young children every day. We're so fortunate to have wonderful leadership here at this Child Care Center. Thank you.
So next up, I'll bring up Councilor Breadon, who has been a champion for not only access to childcare in the city, but to the workforce who takes care of our littlest learners, and we are proud to partner with her for many years on the council before this as well.
Thank you, Mayor Wu, and thank you very much for your leadership. We all understand how incredibly difficult the past few years have been with the COVID epidemic, and how extremely challenging it has been for families and the folks who work in the childcare sector. So I really appreciate your leadership in expanding and improving access to childcare across our city, and making a significant investment of our ARPA money into this sector, because this is where it's truly needed. At farmers markets and libraries and community events all across my district in Alston-Brighton, I hear directly from families and caregivers on their concerns about the affordability and accessibility crisis of our childcare ecosystem. And so I really want to also honour and respect the leadership of former Mayor Flynn, Ambassador Flynn, for his leadership many decades ago in really initiating this programme. And now is the time to put more juice in the tank, so to speak, and really expand and improve childcare. It's critically important for families, it's critically important for businesses and employers, and it's critically important for the long-term economic and growth of our city. So thank you all very much, and I look forward to working and collaborating in every way I can to improve childcare and also the other issues that impact our families in the city, accessible access to affordable housing and quality schools. It's very, very important for the growth of our city and our future prosperity. Thank you.
And now I'll turn it over to Kristin McSwain.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to lead us through the rest of today's program, and I want to start by introducing Devin Quirk, who is the BPDA, Deputy Chief of Development and Transformation. He's going to tell you a little bit about the role that BPDA is playing in this process.
Thank you, Kristin, and thank you, Mayor Wu, for your leadership on this important issue for Boston's families. I'm Devin Quirk, Deputy Chief of the BPDA. First, I just want to say it's really heartwarming to be back here at City Hall Daycare. I really miss this place. Like Mayor Wu, my children spent almost all of their first 4 years growing up in this place. And so from the bottom of my heart, I really want to thank Mayor Flynn, Ambassador Flynn, for having the vision to establish this place. It has meant such a difference to so many families in Boston, and mine included. I am very lucky and grateful to have the opportunity to send my kids, Kara and Aiden, here. Yamali and all of the teachers here are incredible people. They have supported me as a parent, they cared for my children, and they gave my wife and I the confidence to go to work every day knowing that our kids were loved, cared for, and were learning. But importantly, as the mayor said, unfortunately, access to supportive childcare like this center is not something that everyone in Boston, every family in Boston can rely upon. And this is something that we must work to change. So today, the BPDA is proud to support an initial step toward ensuring parents across the city can access high-quality childcare programs and services. The first regulation requiring the inclusion of daycare facilities as part of development projects in Boston was passed in 1989. It was visionary at its time, and it was very well-intentioned. However, over time, we've realized that the existing regulations are a bit vague, which led to the difficulty enforcing them, as well as difficulty complying with them. This is a theme that lies across too many of our development regulations in Boston. Lack of clarity leads to one-off decisions that are not transparent, not accountable, not predictable. So under Mayor Wu's direction, we're changing this. The mayor's new executive order will establish a clear, transparent formula that will allow the BPDA to work with the Office of Early Childhood and the development community to make sure that childcare obligations are met and to further leverage Boston's strong real estate market for the benefit of Bostonians who need our help the most, in this case, Boston's parents and children. The child care provision will be managed and discussed throughout the Article 80 process, similar to all other development considerations like climate resiliency, carbon neutrality, and affordability, the issues the mayor mentioned. And it's a simple, smart, and transparent fix to what has been an opaque process. It is exactly the type of clear strategic direction that the BPDA needs to provide on development decisions to help ensure a more equitable growth of our city. So I want to thank everyone that's been involved with getting the executive order to this stage, and on behalf of the BPDA, we are eager to implement it. With that, I'll turn it back to Kristin.
Thank you, Devin. There are other people who actually help us think through policy, and a lot of them are advocates outside of City Hall. So our next speaker is Sarah Jimenez, who comes to us from Community Labor United and the Care That Works Coalition. They did an initial paper that really talked about IDF and how we might begin to think differently about it. So Sarah.
Great. Thank you. My name is Sarah Jimenez. I'm here on behalf of the Care That Works Coalition. Just want to say first that I'm so delighted that the secret garden of City Hall turns out to be a child care center. We are all delighted to be here to mark the signing of this executive order. This expansion of potential child care resources really could not have come at a better time. So thank you, Mayor Wu. Thank you, Director Kristin McSwain. I know the Care That Works and our partners with us today are just so excited and grateful to the whole team that pulled this win over the line. And I do have to give out a shout out too as well to the team of now graduated Tufts University students that wrote a truly incredible research report on the history of this piece of our city's zoning code. Care That Works is made of unions and community groups that organize the people who do the paid and unpaid work of caring for children. Parents, relatives and friends, domestic workers, family childcare providers, and center-based teachers. These caregivers make the village that it takes to raise a child. And the word village may bring to mind the physical structures, but it's the people that complete the picture and bring it to life. A city is a bit bigger than a village, but the idea stands. From a distance, you notice the skyline. From the ground, we see the cranes in the sky and the rising steel beams. But looking closer, a construction worker woke up at 4 in the morning and drove her kids to their grandmother's house on the way to her work site, and their grandmother will watch them and organize breakfast before they go to their family child care provider. The next year, this building will house office workers and food servers and janitors and security guards who made it downtown with the work of bus drivers and train operators. If they're parents, there's someone there caring for their kids. And a city needs to be a place where the working class can raise a building and raise a family too. Unfortunately, without public investment in caregivers, too many parents can't even dream of being a part of that picture. We know the childcare crisis is immense and honestly centuries in the making. So what can one city do? Thankfully, Mayor Wu does not treat this question rhetorically. And as we've heard, this executive order is only the latest example. And here's why it's a crucial one. From the federal government and the state government, we need billions of dollars. From our city, we need bold and transformative thinking. The local is the level to uplift and empower all caregivers and all communities to build the systems they need, equitable systems that honor caregiving, not as a commodity or a charity, but as a collective charge and a collective responsibility. And so when we fight for those billions and we win them, we don't have to default to old unjust systems because we're ready with something better. The resources that come from this executive order can help unleash that collective care creativity. And now after today, when we see a crane in the sky, we will know it's not only a building that will rise, but a child, a caregiver, and a community too. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So as our previous speakers have laid out for you, this is a really exciting day for the Office of Early Childhood. It is another step forward in building the long-term infrastructure that's needed to support families, children, child care providers, and others in the city of Boston. The IDF builds on the work that we are doing with the Child Care Entrepreneur Fund and Universal Pre-Kindergarten to support child care providers while also focusing on improving quality, access, and workers' pay. The Office of Early Childhood is going to use this funding stream to fund new centers, meet the child care needs of our essential workers by expanding programs that offer non-traditional hours, build business supports for our family child care centers, and invest in upgrades to current facilities that make them safer, more accessible, and address long-standing climate resilience and environmental justice issues. Today is also a testament to what can be accomplished when we partner across city agencies to meet the needs of Boston residents. I want to thank Mayor Wu for her leadership and Chief Arthur Jemison, who could not be here today but sends his greetings, and Devin for their commitment to working together. I look forward to continuing and deepening our partnership with the BPDA as we work to ensure that all of Boston's children have access to high-quality, affordable early education and care opportunities. Now, with that, I want to transition us to our executive order signing. We have an executive order here, Mayor, and a pen. And then following that, we'll have an opportunity for the press to ask questions.
Any questions? Okay, the question is, what exactly will this executive order do and how will it impact people? So the provision that Mayor Flynn had promulgated decades ago requires that any new commercial building being built in one of the 14 zoning districts in and around downtown either provide childcare on site according to a certain formula about the square footage of the new building, or provide resources for childcare off-site. And that part is what we are really clarifying. And so basically, the dollar amount that would be applied to this would be $100 per square foot of the childcare, of the on-site childcare obligation, is what would potentially, what would create the option for off-site resources, for the creation of the resources for the creation of childcare off-site. On average, according to the size of buildings that are in the pipeline and averaged across a bunch of different things, it is about $400,000 for childcare off-site for every new large commercial downtown office building. About the sort of pace of the pipeline right now, in terms of how many buildings are likely to be permitted every year over the next couple of years, that adds up to an estimate of somewhere between $800,000 and a little over $1 million per year contributed to the Office of Early Childhood to be able to supplement childcare creation efforts. Now, this could allow for programs in the community that need funding to expand a little bit. For example, what we saw in Chinatown, where the Boston Chinatown Neighborhood Center had a building with empty classrooms because they didn't have the resources to staff them. This could help then unlock that space and provide funding to be used for staffing and curriculum and all of that. It could provide for partnerships for providers or organizations who want to create childcare directly in a different space or in partnership with a different development. And I think how this impacts people, I mean, I'm always filled with emotions coming back to this space. This is where my kids took their first steps. This is where they grew into little people. And for me, it meant that I could come to work as a full human being, not having to separate myself as a mom, myself as a city worker, but really connect the entirety of our lives, the humanity and the juggling and the balancing that has to happen. That, I believe, was the spirit behind the original orders, to say that when people come to work, you can't just leave your heart behind as you do your work and your family and all of the many parts of your lives. And so every worker in Boston should have access to the types of supports that this program and this place represents, to be able to live your life, support your family, and support your the growth and well-being of your little ones as they come into the world as well.
So if I were to open Regal Communications, 400 square feet, somewhere in Eastie, I would contribute in-house or out-of-house, correct?
So does East Boston is actually not within one of the four. Okay, but let's say downtown. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how that would work.
Yes. Do you want to add anything more, Devin or Kristin, to that? The logistics of it?
Nothing. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, exactly what the mayor said, right? What existed before was a on-site obligation or an off-site cash-out opportunity, but that was poorly defined what the off-site cash-out opportunity was. So what we've done as a team, did financial research to determine what the right payout should be, and establish consistency in the process. So if you're in one of we're not changing the zones that are required. That's the downtown zones that are required to contribute to daycare. We can get you a list of those. But what we are codifying with this executive order is exactly how much that payment should be for an off-site contribution, and also importantly, how those funds will be managed through Kristin and her team.
Is it fair for you to say that this clarifies what companies should contribute to the community for childcare?
That's totally fair.
Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, on a different topic, yesterday regarding the MBTA, you suggested shutting down large portions of precincts. Have you thought beyond that plan, and how realistic is that?
The MBTA, like childcare, is basic infrastructure for our city residents. It entirely defines whether you can get to work on time, whether you can pick up your kids, or whether as a young person you can get to school or to an internship or a job. It's fundamental for Boston, and as of right now, we don't have a direct voice in shaping the decisions that are happening. We are hoping that by the end of the week we may, because both the Massachusetts House and Senate have approved a provision that would give Boston a direct seat on the MBTA's governing board, along with another municipality that is within the service area. And so that would, in some ways, restore the direct voice that Boston used to have in matters concerning public transportation, and that would allow us to have a more engaged and immediate role representing the many, many residents and commuters who are impacted. As far as shutdowns and sort of what I was suggesting yesterday, there are many logistics that would need to go into any part of this, and we are standing by, ready and eager as a city to do more to support the MBTA's work, to make the repairs that they need, make the upgrades, bring our infrastructure up to date and modernize that. We know that the city has a big role in that. We have jurisdiction over the streets and how fast buses can move, whether they're designated lanes or how we use that space. We have jurisdiction over the signaling of our streetlights and whether we can give priority to transit vehicles. And so whatever we can do to help support the MBTA in no longer tinkering around the edges, but taking the actions to get this done right, that is what we will support. But for now, it is more of a suggestion, but hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have more of an impact as well.
The MBTA says it is working with the FDA on these directions, but what
It's disheartening and demoralizing to see day after day new headlines coming out about safety challenges, organizational challenges, and I know the staff at the MBTA are working as hard as they possibly could. They are understaffed in many places, they are pulled in many directions, and so I think there are a number of things that, from an organizational perspective, the city would love to support. Many of them are internal to the MBTA as well. For example, speeding up hiring and filling in some of the vacancies that exist as we have the need for engineering and design to update tracks and new projects in partnership with municipalities, as well as the signal operators and other issues that the FTA has lifted up as immediate priorities that are directly impacting safety. Every time there's a diversion or a rerouting, that changes the communication that needs to happen between different signal operators so that trains can go around that or know to stop at a certain time or go the other direction. And that requires staff power. And so the staffing shortages that we see across every industry are affecting the MBTA and the city and the private sector as well. So I think we need strong leadership to get to the root of these challenges. We need to see the FTA's oversight implemented very quickly. And we need to aim for above what the FTA would require. We know what we need to do as a system. It's to bring our infrastructure up to date, to fill out the organization, and to give the resources necessary urgently so that riders can have that experience that they deserve. We need to rebuild trust in the system. I don't have latest information there, but we can follow up.
continue to run on a fall schedule. They're running school buses, more students, people coming back to work. Have you ever given any thought to that situation?
It would be devastating to our economy if the T runs indefinitely on a weekend schedule during the work week. And so we will continue to partner with them, working through this FTA process and trying to define alternatives along the way so that we can support and ease that strain from the city side as well.
One other subject quickly. There was just a train accident this morning. Have you heard about it? And we thought something was going on there, but enough to say.
This is the last one. I'm getting the hook. That is the last one. I'm very thankful that there were no major injuries sustained in this case. We have had far too many close calls or disasters or even fatalities at work sites in Boston. As we are building our city, as you heard, much more goes into that than just the building that will ultimately remain from those construction efforts. The process of how we support workers through that, from the childcare side, but from the basic life safety side, is absolutely critical as well. And so recently we had a breakfast with the Greater Boston Labor Council. This remains a topic of high priority of how we can ensure the safety through inspections, through oversight of every single work site in the city. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all for coming.